Mberu sasa. Hello.
Yes.
So yes, there's someone even who has joined. People are waiting to join, Allah.
This early, it's already time.
So anyway, how best can we work around it?
Maybe before he starts speaking, unanisikia?
Yes, I can hear you.
So maybe before he starts doing his thing, I can introduce and send a link where people can join in case of it, and show them how to connect to VPN and whatever the scenario. So in case of any challenge, mtu anaweza nipigia.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Aya, tungoje tu watu wa join.
Sawa.
Hi, John. Also, we have our trainer joining us. Hi, John. Welcome aboard. Yeah, I think we are still waiting for people to join into this particular session, and then we can start.
Just me. My name is John Kuria. I have been practicing cybersecurity for like 2 years now. Although it didn't start as that, it started as an IT role that slowly transitioned into now security. So today, I think right now I'm practicing network security and web application security. I'll be, okay, let me just start by sharing my screen. So I'll be taking you through web application. And before we start, I'd just like to say that for web application, there's so much that goes on around web application pen testing. First, I think it's good if you want to be into, if you want to get into security, it's better, it's good to learn the background of it all in terms of like maybe how the network is structured, in terms of how this, even if it's web application, how it interacts with other components within the network. So in terms of like servers, in terms of like ports, databases, and the like. So I think I have had an advantage than most, but if you really want to get into something, I think nothing is stopping you. Just dive in and just go on and do it. So for web application, I started since I was fascinated by how an application basically interacts. Curiosity is what will get you through the door. Like trying, especially for a hacker, that is what will, you just want to understand how everything works. So in this case, I'll just like dive into it and go through the methodology. So for web application, I think for any other pen test, in that case, there's a sort of like the common standard structure. Everyone has their own way of conducting a pen test, but there's what's common to all. And this is like close to like a 5-step process whereby there's reconnaissance or information gathering, and then you go on to enumeration, exploitation, maintaining access, and covering attacks. It's a personal opinion, but I think reconnaissance and information gathering, this is the place where you want to spend most of your time at. It's where you want, this is where you gain information. There's basically two types of information gathering. There's passive and there's active. For passive, you don't probe the network at all. You don't probe the IP address. You just try to gain as much information from public sources, maybe the internet. You want to know where this particular web application or network or your target is located on a physical level. You want to know who are its employees, what services is it in, is it a banking industry, is it a commercial industry, who are some of its partners, who are its third parties, things like that. Like you want to, by the time you are diving into actual now trying to probe the network, you want to know that you've gathered everything. Like it will be like slicing through butter. This is what we call like reconnaissance and enumeration is what we call like sort of sharpening the axe, where so that when it comes to actually cutting down the tree, it will just be like a one-time thing. So after you've done it, after you've already gathered all the information, and now that's when now you've already identified the IP address, that's when now you jump into scanning. And when you're going into scanning, you also want to be careful because you don't want to, first of all, you want to know if this particular network has a SOC or if it has a CM tool. And even if it has one, what kind of CM tool is it? Does it have any vulnerabilities to it? Because if you are pinging an IP address that has been protected by an IPS or an IDS, your IP address will likely be detected, and you might be blacklisted from the word go. You haven't even gotten to know what ports are open. You'll be blacklisted. So these are some of the things. That's why information gathering is quite important. So after, let's say now you've already identified all that, you want to, even if you're going to scan, you want to use an IP address that won't be traced back to you. There are many sources. You could use tools such as the Tor browser. You could also hire. You could also hire what's it called? You could hire a server. There are some services whereby they hire servers, and you could like hire it so that it will be traced back to you, and then you'll use that server now to try to get to that target that you are trying to get into, so that even if you're blacklisted, they won't know it's you anyway. Just get another IP address and try that. So, okay, assuming you get through that, if you already scanned your network, you'll try to be as silent as possible. You get to know which ports are open, you get to know which services it's running. And then once you've identified, I think it's even better to just like leave it for like a day, even 3 days. And then now that's when you get now to get and see what services they are open, what services it's running, if it's updated services, if there are CVs related to it. That's when now you'll get to what's called this exploit-DB. This exploit-DB. Exploit-DB is an area where it's basically a database of vulnerabilities. You also have one in your Kali. If you're using Kali, this one that's called Satsploit, I think. This basically, it gives you a list of all vulnerabilities that are associated with networks, with basically exploitable vulnerabilities. So let's say you get a service that has has a CVE, you can try to use that now to get into the network. You also want to run through all the ports. A basic, a normal API address has like close to 65,000 ports. So you want to scan through all them. If you just run a normal Nmap scan, it will capture, I think, just the first 1,000 ports, and it just be like on a light level. But you want to go deeper, try to see the backdoors, try to see some of those ports that are never scanned, or that are people never even think about them. And then maybe that's where you'll get your backdoor and you'll be able to get to the network. So that's on exploitation. Now, after you've already exploited it, now you want to maintain your access. High chances, after you've gained access, you'll probably get an access of a normal user who doesn't have much rights, or they can do a lot to when it comes to exploiting the network. You want to go to the admin, or you want to go to an executive user who has rights that will actually give you an environment to make an impact. So maintaining access, you have to, as I said, is what's called privilege escalation. That's why you try to get the highest, like it's basically as it says, privilege, you're escalating your privileges. You want to get to an admin, and then once you get to an admin, you want to create a user that won't be detected. This way, now you try to maintain access. These, if you're conversant with Darknet Diaries, there's an episode where they hacked, I think, the bank of, was it Baghdad or I can't remember, but it was a huge bank. These people or these hackers, they were able to maintain, or they were able to network for close to 3 years. And it's not to say that this bank didn't have security processes where they were checking for insider threats, or they were checking, maybe even their security was high enough, but they were able to stay in that network because they had done this, that you were able to maintain the access. So that's another thing that you want to look into. And then eventually you have to cover your tracks. You have to delete your logs. You have to make sure that nothing can be traced back to you. Or even if there was a forensics, you try as much as possible not to be detected. The other thing I can add on this process is this is not just a one time. It's not a one structure thing that once you did your recon, that's it. It's even when you're maintaining access, or even when you're exploiting, you still be doing reconnaissance. You still be enumerating when you're in maintaining access. So it's what I can call like I don't want to use a web or a meshwork, but each and every process is being applied at each and every step. So okay, these are some of the tools that we'll be using. We have NetCraft. NetCraft is an information gathering website. This is whereby, let's say you have a site. Okay, let me just use an example. So you have a site that has been given, and you want to get its IP address. You want to know what kind of service it's running. You want to know, does it have a SOC, things like that. Mostly, it will give you the IP address. Okay, we'll try something like, let's just try Safaricom. Please don't try this. Don't go and try hacking. It's illegal. Once you've run it, you're supposed to get this IP address. So this is the IP address. This, at least now you're in the first step of now getting to know what it has. You can see that it's using the SHA-256 encryption certificates. You can check for certificates. At least we know that it's expiring in 2022. Yeah, so you can pick this IP address and maybe try to ping it. Although it's not advisable, but for these purposes, since this is an educational purpose, and it's highly likely that my IP address will be detected. But once you get through that, at least now you know it's a live port. You know it's a live IP address. Now from there, now you can pick from towards what you want to achieve. But still, it's not good. Don't try. Don't hack. Rather. Then so we have other tools like Sublister. We'll use this in a few. The Buster Sublister basically gives you a list of domains that are associated with a particular IP address, or rather a particular what's it called, website. So if we were to see this comes with Linux by default. So that's another thing I really advise if you're going to get into pen testing. Just be conversant with Linux. This is your ultimate tool. It's your ultimate OS. It has all the tools installed. So basically, it runs and tries to gather all the subdomains that are associated with safaricom.com. So you find that in most times, the domain or the target that you've been given is highly secure. But you find that some of the subdomains that are associated with it are insecure. So you can just try and maybe like open this. This is where now you get to learn like who are some of its third parties. And I wasn't expecting it to open, but through this, you're able to get like you're able to assess this website and know who are some of its third parties, who are they interacting, what kind of industry are they in. Because if you see like maybe they have a third party that's maybe selling products, maybe like certain goods of a particular maybe IT related stuff, then you know that this is a tech-based company. If maybe it's something to do, maybe something that's selling food or other maybe handbags, it at least it gives you an idea of what you're dealing with. So there are times where you find there's a vulnerability in this, or maybe in another third party, and then you are able to use what's called pivoting, so that you express that vulnerability in that other subdomain, and then you get now to your main domain. So that's on Sublister. Debuster is another tool whereby it runs and tries to get the common URLs that are associated with most websites. So you find that like a website, you find that most websites, maybe they have something, I'm just guessing, like uploads. Okay, basically, Debuster does that for you. It just tries and goes through the whole thing and provides that for you. LSS threads. I try just for it to go fast. The slower the threads, the slower it will be, but the more thorough it will be. But we don't have time, so we'll just try to make it go a bit fast. And then maybe we use maybe these are different word lists. For this case, we'll just use this one. Okay, it will take some time, but that's just basically how it works. So if after a while, it should populate for you here a list of directories that you can access. And then we have Nmap. Nmap is an enumerating tool, and then you have hunter.io. We'll get into this more. We have NameCheckup. NameCheckup is a really good hosting tool. This it's an hosting tool whereby you populate for it, or rather you give it a username, and then it's going to go through a list of platforms, social platforms, anything there is that is associated with that username. So let's take for my, in this case, let me just take an example of my name. I don't like using my name because it's so common, but this is just an example. If you're able to get someone that has a unique username, it will give you, for you, all the platforms. So you have Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all these are, even Badu, these are social platforms that are associated with this username. So if you were to come here, it's just Twitter. Okay, this is not my profile, but someone that's called John Courier. If you go to Facebook, you can check Pinterest, anything, you name it, even Badu. So you find that, okay, my advice to you on this is so many at times you get to platforms whereby you use your usernames. You don't care if maybe someone is out there, but there are tools that are able to get your usernames. There are also tools that are able to, if you give it an email address, it's able to get all the subscriptions that are associated with that email address, or maybe even another email address that is associated with that email address. So an example, if maybe, let's say, if you're looking, if you're applying for a job, just a very rough example, if you're applying for a job and then like you've used your email, that email can be used to do an OSINT or an open source intelligence on you. This is just an example of a tool. This is just one of them. There are others. So my advice is just be careful, especially if it's work-related email addresses. Don't go on just signing up or subscribing to any platform. And even if you have to, just try to make sure that that username that you're using is not related to you, because you may find yourself in really embarrassing situations. Okay, so that's on this. Yeah, so this NameCheckup. You have vibeinpon.com. It's another OSINT whereby it tells you if your IP address, or if your email address has been breached. So you want to, in this case, you want to like, also this is just also general. Try as much as possible not to use the same password across different platforms, because if that email address was to be compromised, high chances it will be used elsewhere. Okay, I don't know, it's not opening. Okay. But it's there. Have I been informed? You can Google it. It's there. You just give it your email address, and then it will check for you. The other thing is Babsuit. Babsuit is for anyone that is conducting any web application. This is like your ultimate tool. You must just try as much as possible to be conversant with Babsuit. Babsuit is like, when it comes to weaponry, this is your bazooka, this is your sniper, it's your pistol, it's your machine gun. It basically does everything it is for you that you want. You can do brute forcing. You're able to tell if a particular website has some filter measures implemented and how to bypass them. It can also do things that are called intruding. This basically allows you to like, you give the tool a list of a word list, that's brute forcing, a word list and a list of usernames, and then it tries now to try and brute force into that particular application. So let's say you've done your OSINT and you've done your information gathering, and you've gotten some of its employees, and from some of their names, you're able to tell if maybe they're using the first name and the last name as their email address for that to access the application. You can give it a list of those usernames, and then like another word list of passwords, commonly used passwords, and then you just leave it for it to try and force. And they do get caught. They do get caught. So we'll be going through OWASP TopTen. OWASP basically stands for Open Web Application Security Project. This is a community of people who came up and they specialized in applications, web applications. So they try to get as much as the commonly used vulnerabilities. So you'll get injection, you'll get broken authentication, cross-site scripting, and then they populate it, or they tell the world that there's this and this vulnerability, so that you can patch your systems. And then you have OWASP. OWASP now is the platform that we'll be using. It's a OWASP just shop. And then you have additional platforms like Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, Cyber Talents, Cyber Ranges, CTFs. I will advise you to get a lot into CTFs because CTFs have a way of opening your mind to the what attacks are actually there. And then it's not like it's open completely. For most, or rather for how we conduct our penetration testing and vulnerability assessment is structured. But for CTFs, this is where now you find like everything else, it's beyond what you know, it's beyond what is general application. You can use this so it's a write-up. I think Coimet is another a guru in the industry. So these are some of the write-ups that he's been doing. So you can use this as practice, trying to get to know how this CTF are conducted, because it will really open up your mind into security and its practices. Plus, it also gives you a boost that you learn that you can do some of these things. So these are the OWASP 10. You have injection, broken authentication. Yeah, you can take this list and just like try to memorize it, but it's just we'll be going through this in a few. So we have this. So if you're conducting a vulnerability assessment, especially on an OWASP, I will advise you not to limit yourself to OWASP, because OWASP is just like it's procedural. It's just what you do to try and get to know if your system or application is secure. But there's so much that goes on outside that structure. Although I will discredit entirely, but there's more to penetration testing than OWASP. So okay, I've attached this. It's a book on OWASP. If you are to go through it, it will teach you everything there is to OWASP. It's really enlightening. So you have testing for LDAP injection, SQL. There are other forms of SQL injection other than SQL. You have LDAP, you have XSE, you have XML injection. This is a really good book. If you want to get into OWASP and it's exploiting its vulnerabilities, just use this. I'm so sure you'll get a lot of vulnerabilities. But if you are to deploy this on a website, just make sure that you have the scope, or that particular owner of that website has allowed you to do that. Because if you don't, it's illegal and you'll get caught. But they're always sad. That's why you have these environments like OWASP, where you can try and use all this. This is another checklist. If you have to use this, it will be really helpful. So yeah, so it's basically a VA, or a structure that you can deploy or use. You see, it even has a description for those conducting vulnerability assessments. It's nice when it comes to generating reports for your web applications. So you have even your tools. You can use HTTP print, browser, web hosting, Nmap, Nessus. Nessus is a good vulnerability assessment tool. You have Micto and BAP proxy. So this, I don't think you can even exhaust it all. But if you are to use this on your web application and go through all of this, then I think your web application will be secure. But that's only on the web application side. There's a lot that goes on, as I explained earlier, that the web application is just a product. It's something that's hosted. It's like a ship, and the web application is the container that's being carried. If there's a hole in that ship, then the ship will definitely sink. So if there's a loose spot elsewhere, even if you've done all this, and there's a loose port somewhere, or maybe there's a new CVE, and your web server has a vulnerability, or maybe even your firewall, it will be broken into. So that's why I really advise that you get to understand the network and everything that surrounds the web application before you can get into this. Okay. So let's just get into the shop. I've attached this. This will help you to set up the juice shop. So once you must have a profile first. But once you come here and search for big image, this is where it will guide you on how to set it up. You have your table of contents. You have the setup. You can also host it on Heroku. Heroku is a free environment. You can host it there. But if you want to install it, which I prefer, you can install it on your OS. So if you're using Kali, I advise you take this package. But first, you have to check what type of Node.js that you're using. If you come here, it should tell you a version. So like for me, I'm using version 12. So once I come, I want to download it, I look for version 12, the Node.js, which is this. It works with Node.js. So you have to specify if it's Kali. There's one for Windows. Yes. I've also attached a YouTube video. You can use this. So I want to load for you to load it, you have to go into the actual directory where it's located. I guess you also have to be in root. Then run npm start. So this is on a local environment. So I'm using my own IP address. I'm using my local host, and I'll be running on ports 3000. Run it initially. Okay, it takes some time. But once let's just give it time. In the process, I want to clarify on vulnerability assessments and penetration testing. See, for vulnerability assessments, you get to use tools. Use tools like Nessus, as I explained, Nessus and Nikto. But for VAs only give you like a report. It only tells you that your web application, these are the vulnerabilities, or this is what is associated with it. You can do this better. You can close some of these ports, some of these services, some of these methods. But penetration testing is not limited to that. Penetration testing basically is everything else that is not or beyond the set rules or guidelines. This is where you try to do your own things. You try, maybe if you have an application, you try to submit wrong inputs. You try to submit anything. You view first. The most important thing is viewing the source code. You have to go through the source code. You have to try and learn and understand how that particular application is running, the structure, if it's, again, if I had explained, if it's using other third parties to gain a service, and how that service is being directed. These are some of the things that you learn from the source code. It's really important to go through the source code first before you even like start pinging the application. So this is the hospital shop. It's basically a shop. It's where it's selling juices, selling bananas, juices. There's also products like shirts. So this, if I can use an example locally, let's just take an example for Jumia. So you just want to go through, like, try to do anything. Like, you just try submit things, see how it's responding back to you. Some of these codes, they are codes that rather information that you could use to exploit it. About them, you can just try opening different tabs. Twitter, you have their Twitter. From here, you can get some of the employees. You see the committees associated with it. All this is part of OSINT. Okay, I think we've tried enough. So because of time, I just want to go about it. So, okay, the first thing, there are the tutorials outside of how to go about this, but you want to look for the scoreboard, or rather a list that gives you what you're supposed to do. For this case, you could go on and search it, but for this case, I'll just give it because of time. But this is it. Like, this is the first, like, this is the first flag that you're supposed to be getting. So as you can see, it has a list of tasks that you're supposed to use. Now, these are all centered to OWASP or vulnerabilities that are associated with web applications. It has a range. So maybe like for this case, we'll be starting from this one. This is like the easiest tasks, and then slowly progressing to some of the most difficult ones. So, okay. I want to explain some of this. So maybe like you can try like getting this confidential document. So as I said, the first thing you want to do is like go through everything. Like, you want to post things, try to see what it will give back to you. Is it legal, invalid email and password? This for languages. Don't get into that. Okay, but let's just log in. Since you don't have a user already, I already established a profile, go and register. So just test. I think I already used test. That's why we want to. Okay. So we've already registered. So I want to log in. Password is 12345. Okay, now we have an account. So you can view a basket. Our basket is empty. You have a profile. This is your profile, username. Right. Okay, it populates this. We'll be getting to this in a few. It's called reflected, whereby if you give a website your name, it reflects back to you and telling you something. So it's something that can be exploited. So You come here, see orders.
It doesn't remember what that is.
Privacy. So yeah, so you see, we have privacy policy. I think this something that was. Also solved for this privacy, but you want to access this confidential data. So time is not our side, so we just so we can take this email, this URL, give it to the buster. And it should populate it for us. Like now it will go target is not valid. It will go through, it will basically go through, it will take that website and pass it through a list of commonly used URLs. Because of time, okay, let me just, there's a file that's called robots.txt. Robots.txt is basically a file that tells the website users, that tells its network, don't look into this file or don't look into this document. It tells all other websites, search engines, that yes, you can access all this. This is what I provide. These are some of the services that I have, but don't look into this. But for us, that's what we want to look into. Okay, finding errors. So as you can see, it's telling us now, don't look into FTP. This comes in handy a lot, especially in CTFs. So if you come here, FTP, you'll find now other files that are associated with that website that it doesn't want you to go into. And in one of these files, you'll find a confidential file. Now that's what we are looking for. I think it's one of these. Okay, you don't have the time to go through all of them, but I did. But it's something, if you want to go if you want to go and use this, just be curious. Just open everything that there is, everything that is populating for you. Land acquisitions. So these are files, because you can see these are files that are associated with this website. And coupon, package, platform. No, I think that, okay. Sorry. Boot quarantine. These are the files. Okay. I think the file is one of these. I think it has already populated, just that we are not on the OWASP, the shop itself. Yes, as you can see, it's this one. This is the confidential. It's one of these files. Like these are files that the website doesn't want you to see. And you've also solved another error handling. Error handling is basically trying to force, or rather you're forcing that website to perform a task that is outside the scope. So if I can explain it, I'll put this further out. You find that the things, I'm sure you are familiar with things that like SQL injection or other methodologies like cross-site scripting. SQL injection basically uses some symbols, and you even find that other websites have restricted use of these symbols, like exclamation mark. I think it's also one of the restricted ones. I'll just give it any password, valid. But if you are to use apostrophe, an apostrophe now it's using SQL injection. So if I am running a website, I don't want my website to use or to take anything that deals with an apostrophe, because it could be used as a vulnerability. So if you have to submit that, then see it generates for you the object, or rather the error itself. So if you have to go back, sorry for that. So that's on object. If you are to go into other vulnerabilities, I'm not sure if I'll finish this slide, but we have cookie manipulation. For cookies, as I said, the first thing you have to do is inspect the element, or rather you have to inspect this web page. So you can come here, all this is how the website is run. You have your console, this is where you can like put any commands to see how it reacts. You have your debugger. The debugger, if you come here to the main.js, it basically gives you the entire code that runs the actual application. You can use this to try and make it more prettier, in a way that can make sense. So if you are to come here, let's go back. I want to solve one of these. This on redirects. So redirect. Every website has a website can stand on its own. It requires other websites so that it works with. It doesn't just only serve one purpose. You want it to be able to take you in another website or so. So for this case, rather for this task, it's telling us, let us redirect you to one of our cryptocurrency addresses, which we are not promoted any longer. So when you come here on this main.js, you use Control F. Control F, basically, obviously you can't go through all this. It's like over 16,000 lines, but you can filter your search whereby you look for a particular parameter of the interest. So here it is. For the purpose, we'll just just submit it because of time. And once you come here, we'll direct you to a blockchain page. So in a way, this basically tells us that you can buy the things on this shop using Bitcoin. So this is another vector that you can use to like now try to get actual to the website. Another vulnerability that I want to go through is the other ones. We have this repetitive registration or follow the DRE principle. The DRE principle basically is a principle that if you are a coder, you'll understand this. It doesn't allow you to repeat procedures. Just want it to be one thing. Because it says on time, it says on space for the disk, and the processes. So, it's saying repetitive registration, follow the DRE principle by registering a user. So if you are to come here, and now we want to register a user, right? So this is one of the places where you're repeating something. So this is the password where you're required to put your password, and then you're supposed to repeat the password. So if you are registering another user, maybe let's give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then maybe let's say 6. If you come here, it will tell you that it will already give you an error. But if you were to change that, give it 6 there, it doesn't say anything. So that's a vulnerability. Just give it a 1. And if we register, we are basically, we've now in some databases that's a conflict, because now it has 2 entries. It doesn't know which one to use. But come and try to so let's try and use maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it didn't pick that one. It picked the first one, but you enter 2 entries, and that's one of the call. It's called, the opposite of it is called a wet principle. It means that there's a repetition in it. So let's this is another one, 0 stars. Give a devastating 0-star feedback in the store. So if you come here where there's customer feedback, a 0-star is now submitting it as it is without any rating. If you were to solve this is 7 times 9, that's 63 plus 5 to be 68. You see this, it's not submitting, or because you haven't picked anything here. But we can force this website to submit it. If you come here on the inspect element for this, this how now this submit button has been identified or has been defined. As you can see, it has been disabled. But if you came here and enabled it, it basically becomes submittable. So here we're basically forcing that website to take that comment as it is. So this is especially vulnerable to websites, or rather you find some websites, they only have a certain set parameter. If let's say if it's a login page, you only have to put your email address and you have to put your password. How that works is, if you submit that request, the website goes and communicates with the database telling it that we have this and these credentials. Does this user exist, and is this their password? If it's so, then it populates their profile. If it's not, then it responds with an invalid password. But you can use, definitely, if there's a vulnerability, maybe a SQL vulnerability that has gains access to the DB, if you are to enter it on the email section, it won't go through by default. The submit button over here, it won't be submittable. But if you are to go and enable it, you're basically forcing that DB to take in that request and process it. And once that happens, you've already infected the DB and you've already served your purpose. So I really wanted to go into XSS. I don't have time, but I'll just skim through it. Okay, cookies. I want to talk. Cookies is another feature that's really important in web apps, because you can manipulate them. if you to come here, make this your friend. Inspect element, make it your friend. You can do so much with this. Your cookies are basically stored here. Even on the website that you accept them, this way it's stored. And if you were to come here and see some of their values, you can edit this. They are encoded. There's base64 encoding. There's URL encoding, on all other sorts of encoding. But there are also tools that break those encoding. There's a tool called SaberChef. SaberChef is, when it comes to decrypting, this is it. This is the ultimate tool. It does everything. It does MD5, base64, hex, URL decode. So if you are to take this, I don't think it should break it. But for some websites, it's that vulnerable. If you are to come here and submit this, I think it's if you that's the input. If you are to take this from this page, it's supposed to give you some meaningful text. And sometimes you find that you find even a JSON input, whereby if you can now manipulate the input. So you find like this is one thing I found in one of the CTFs. You find like maybe after you've decoded it, it becomes something like this. Login. Maybe let's say a user John. After you've decoded now that the encrypted version gives you something like this. And if you were to change this, because John is a user, you change it to admin, and then now you take this script and now encrypt it on the version that it was encoded in. You can take that encrypted version and submit it here. And once you do, you'll get now the user profile that you've edited. So there's a lot. This is a really key feature, cookie manipulation and session management, because now that will basically give us a session for that. If it's an admin, it will give us the admin profile. So yeah, so you have to learn about the encoding types. Like, so I really wanted to. I don't know if I can extend my time, but cross-site scripting is another really crucial part when it comes to vulnerability.
You can have it for the next maybe 15 for everyone. I'm not sure whether we'll have the quorum, but I believe we can be patient for that window.
Okay, so I'll try to do it as quick as I can. So for cross-site scripting basically is submitting. It's a method where you submit scripts, malicious scripts to a website, and once someone gets to that page or that website, they get infected with the malicious script that you submitted. There are several types, close to 4, but for stored XSS now, stored process scripting, this is the easiest. This is where you basically submit a payload to a website, and once it's supposed to, you store it. Once you send it to the website, it goes to the database, and then it's supposed to reflect back to you. If I can use an example with this. So you find that in some websites, maybe I think even Jimmy has one like that, where if let's say you've bought something, it tells you, thank you, John, for buying with us. So you can edit that John that has reflected into something. I think this is it. So perform a reflected XSS attack using this. So you can take this script. There's a whole list of cheat sheets of XSS scripts. All these are scripts that you can use, but you can't use them all. So that's why things to do with information gathering or reconnaissance, that's where they come in handy, whereby you can now, it narrows down your path into now which kind of cross-site scripting that you can use. But for this case, we'll be using stored. Stored, checking this script. Once you come here, I think there's a place where, okay, just go about this. So if you were to maybe enter your ID, see it gets this the search results now for, if I wanted to say like John, like this, populate that for you. But you can manipulate this and input a script, and once it's submitted, it goes to the database, it's stored, and then it populates that for you. So that's you can input a malicious script in that DB, and it will really affect the particular user that you're targeting. So I attached this. These are some of the other steps of encoding. So if you look at this, don't be scared of all this, because all this is just serving the same purpose. It's just that it has been encoded. So you find that a website, maybe it uses or recognizes URL encoding. If you submitted this script, there's nothing it will do because it can't. But if you were to transmit this into a language that it understood, then it will serve the same purpose. It will go and it will get to the DB and it will do the damage that it's intended for. I've attached also this. You can go and it's a list. It's a list of other scripts. Blind XSS, it's almost the same as cross-site scripting, but this is mostly targeted to particular people or particular users. So maybe an admin. It's used mostly in environments where you submit a form and the corresponding person that you're submitting it to needs to open it. So, and they won't know, they won't see it. They won't know that, you see, for stored, it populates, or rather it reflects back to you telling you that this and this has happened, or this XSS. But for this, the particular person that you're sending it to won't know. So maybe in a corporate environment whereby you have a ticketing system, you are assigned a task and you solve it, you're supposed to tell the person who sent it, maybe your admin, that you've done this, and this. So you can input this scripts, and once they open it, they will know that they have been affected, but you'll be able to now see all other the information, like maybe IP address and anything. If time will allow us. Okay, I think we can. So there's this. Put trigger. These are the people who come up with Babsuit. Babsuit, please go and get into it. Learn it, understand it, ingest it. It's your go-to tool when it comes to web application testing. So these people have provided us with a lab or an environment whereby you can try some of this. This will be going into blind XSS. And blind XSS, you have to use XS Hunter. XS Hunter is the tool or the environment where it gets back to you telling you that this and this has been executed. So I want to think of blind cross-site scripting as a landmine. It's something that you plant and then you just leave it. It may take days, months, years. But once that particular person that it's intended for gets to step on it, it will alert you that so and so has scam about it. So, okay, let's just sign up. I'll just be using my email. Please don't hack me. Let's use oh yeah, it won't, because I already used this username. So what username should we use? Sorry. domain has been registered. And let's try. Okay. So this basically gives you a list of payloads, of blind payloads that you can use. So for this example, I will be using this, the basic one. So in that form, let's just take example. In that form that you're submitting to the admin, you can take this. This is a blog. You can just go to view post. And once we come here, whereby we are supposed to leave a comment, you can post this script. The name is, let's just say test. Email is test.com. Website, HTTPS. Test. Okay, say that it's been submitted. So if you come here, because it's a script, you can see that it has already taken effect. I don't know for how long it will last, but now this your tool, this is now on the attacker side. We've submitted the script here, and you have to use this tool now to check for you. And since we've linked our email address, you'll find that it's even notifying you through your email address that so and so or someone has accessed that page and they got caught. So example, so like here, someone has already viewed it. Okay, definitely it's a test, but so you can view reports. There's supposed to be a screenshot here. It's supposed to take a screenshot of their web page, or rather their screen. You're able to see this is the URL, the origin. You can see the IP address for that particular user. You can see the victim is using Mozilla. Cookies. I didn't capture the cookie, but if you are able to get a cookie, let's say now in this, it's a corporate environment. If there was a cookie and it's an admin, you can take now that cookie and manipulate it from your side. Once you put that cookie, you'll get the admin profile, but these things will be detected. So don't try. So that's on blind cross-site scripting. DOM-based is this is a bit tricky. These are it's really the advantage of being a pen tester from a developer background. This way it comes in, because this is mostly linked to scripts, especially jQueries, whereby you can manipulate. You see how a website communicates. See something like document location. If maybe you want to access something, or maybe you want to send a request, that request is being passed into another location, like document location. Now you can specify with what location, something like that. But you can also use this. You can what's it called, modify it using a script so that they won't be directed to that location. They'll be taken to another location of your own making, if you're an attacker, that is. But I have attached a website whereby you can go and gain as much information as you can about it. If you want to go that way, because it's the hardest, but it's the one that reaps the most benefits. So you can go and read on this. Here's some of its scripts. Yeah. And then we have reflected. Reflected now is reflected success. You see how you submit something, and then it's reflected back to you, but it doesn't go to the DB. This is the same as stored, but instead of it being stored in the DB, it only gets reflected back to you. That's the main difference with it. I think if it's solved. Reflected. Oh, it's this one. Yeah. It's the one that we solved earlier, whereby you submit this, and where it populates a name for you, you put this in. So this can be manipulated where, let's say you can construct a malicious script, a malicious URL, and then send it to a victim or a person of your interest. And then once they open it, it's supposed to reflect. Now, it doesn't have to reflect on their page, but it can reflect now on your page, telling you that so and so has ignited or has taken your bait. So now then you proceed now to knowing that you've taken your bit and now get into their profile. Oh, we have one for Dom. So this is a script. Dom is basically just sending it. This will be easy enough. But once you submit that, it's supposed to populate this for you. It's supposed to populate something of your own making. Maybe you could try anything. Try maybe later now. Carrots. Yes, and it'll be hearts. Yeah. So yeah. So that's it. On reflected. If come here, so these are some of the resources. If you want to get into web app testing, please follow these guys. If you have the cyber mentor, this guy is really good, especially for beginners. He will really teach you and will really give you that step-by-step process of how to go about it. And then we have John Hammond. John Hammond is another great one. We have Hackersploit and Darknet Diaries. I can't forget Darknet Diaries. This is like a Bible for pen testers, security, basically. It really tells you how much there is in security and how much potential capabilities that you can do. It will change your perspective when it comes to security and how you can gain access to anything, banks, people, anything. So please just subscribe to this podcast. It has really interesting episodes. So with that, I think I've completed. We can't cover everything in the web app, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, John. This has been a great session. And also hearing my echo. Okay, so the key learning lessons from today's session is
I'll share the links. I'll share the links. I think there's a way you can access these slides because there are a couple of links. I'm sorry, I couldn't go through all the chat at the moment, but I'll share them. I'll definitely share them. I can post this on social media, Twitter, or anywhere.
So you can share the slides with me, and then I post.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then another thing is for everyone, maybe you subscribe to the Darknet Diaries podcast. How do I call it? I'm a religious listener to every episode that has been published in that series. So it gives you insights on the different things that happen aside from pen testing itself, but also the key items that these hackers or black hat hackers use or utilize. So I'd recommend you subscribe to such sessions. And that's it from me. Let's have a good night, everyone, and let's see what you can work on tomorrow. And another thing to close out on is just subscribe to, how do I call, no, not subscribe. You can configure our suggestion so you practice web. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for the opportunity. Sorry for taking your time. And let's do this again later, other time. Okay, bye.
Bye, and going forward from the next one, we'll be using CyberRange's platform, so you're able to, as the instructor, doing it also. Sorry about the echo. I'm not sure where it's coming from. So thank you, everyone.